Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Now, what better place to start than being able to speak? Yes, that would be great. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. And as we are settled in the new war room, where better to start than a classic gentry style video, a top 10 list. But I'm gonna do 9 and leave the 10th for you guys to nominate in the comments. What are the rules? Very simple. It's got to be iconic, it's got to be under $1,000, and it's got to be watch snob proof. Quick wristwatch check, wearing my Rolex, no, it's not a Rolex, Tudor Submariner, on a wrist candy watch club, the olive strap FKM rubber strap. This is not the waffle, this is just the plain one. It's slightly darker than the waffle, I noticed the other day, but I love it. Really works with old subby there, and of course matches my shirt. That's sprezzatura for you. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Oh my god. So at number 9 is a watch that I had a love affair with for about 2 years and then abruptly ended. I'll get into more of that in just a moment. Regardless, it deserves to be in this list. It's a French-made icon, prestigiously issued to the Marine Nationale back in the day and once again in recent years. Today, this neo-vintage classic boasts an in-house caliber, 500 meters water resistance, along with a very distinctive style completely of its own. Unfortunately, however, my dalliance ended, despite owning both the very faithful to the 60s original in steel and later the sumptuous bronze version in 39mm. But with rapid growth came corners cut in QC, along with a seriously atrocious reputation for poor customer support. Hopefully, they've addressed these issues since. But not to mention today, they are selling a smidgen over $1,000, hence why they are only at number 9 for me. I ended up selling mine as part of a collection purge and have never looked back. However, issues aside, it still remains France's most historically rich military-issued watchmaker and instantly recognizable, with that unique crown integrated mechanism that allows you to niftily lock the bezel without compromising water security. Okay, number 8 is the CWC SBS Diver. If the name hasn't given it away already, it's a watch that a lot of my friends, especially in the armed forces, absolutely swear by them. For good reason too, and I should talk about them more often. I just don't, for, well, I know why, and we'll get to why in just a moment. And it even made it into one of my favorite, actually I think my favorite Mission Impossible movie. CWC was founded by a British chap called Ray Mellor, whose former job was to oversee Hamilton's contracts with the British Armed Forces. But when those ended in the 1970s, he decided to start his own brand in order to keep supplying them and christened it CWC, short for Cabot Watch Company, named after Giovanni Caboto, the 15th century intrepid Italian explorer. The result is a design language extremely loyal to the mid-century MOD mil specs, that has remained, like General Melchid's stiff upper lip, staunchly unchanged to this very day.
How do I look, darling?
Girl bait, sir. Pure bloody girl bait.
Giving them that classic British military look and proportions, but Swiss-made in quality. Remind you of anything in particular? But best of all, these are no-nonsense martial instruments that are still supplied to the British Royal Marines, Royal Navy submariners and specialist diving units, hence why it's named the SBS Diver. While it is quartz, it's an uber-robust Swiss 517 with a day date. But for $700 with real military provenance, it's a truly functional conversation starter worthy of respect. The only downside here is they do sell out fast because of this, and so they can be tricky to get a hold of. Okay, at number 7, it's an American/Swiss-made watch brand that, despite starting relatively recently, only in the 1980s in fact, has become arguably the most associated watch brand with the US military thanks to this watch. Unlike its uber stealthy tactical look, its name totally gives it away. The Luminox Navy SEAL watch is such a quintessential bit of 90s soldierly horology. It will have you singing Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit as you lob grenades to clear an enemy position the second you strap it on your wrist. First developed, designed and battlefield tested to the extreme in collaboration with elite US Navy SEAL officers in 1992, it's been on more operations and movies of art imitating life than we have time to go into. It's still used and issued to active military personnel to this day. You can buy the modern evolved quartz versions for well under $1,000, featuring their trademark, and I quote, always visible technology, aka tritium gas tubes. The only downside is this aggressively serious bit of kit only comes in XXL sizes. But pay just over $1,000 and you can also now get the automatic version too. And number 6, we could not make this video without, I'm talking of the 90s, the Citizen ProMaster NY0040 along with all its equivalent modern versions. No matter if you go full luminous dial, beguiling sunburst blue, or strictly here to chew bubblegum and kick ass with the black dial,
and I'm all out of bubblegum.
It's an undisputed heavyweight in its price range, immortalized by being the choice of Italy's Marina Militare specialist divers in the mid to late 90s with a special ultra-rare 500-meter rated modded version of the thoroughbred 200-meter version civilian professional diver that was developed by Citizen specifically to rival their nemesis, Seiko's famous SKX of that era. So much so, they mimicked the off-center 4 o'clock crown, but mirrored it by putting it on the other side, which has always been a more comfortable solution, but also, I sense, a subtle kind of middle finger up to their greatest enemy. Its brutalist Verhoeven utilitarianism, complete with whimsical Y-front 12 o'clock marker, is so lovably 90s, it looks like a Home Alone Talk Boy and a Nintendo Game Boy decided to have some kind of wrist-top offspring together. Packed with a proprietary hackable automatic movement, it was also refreshingly modestly scaled, fortuitously decades ahead of the current small watch trend. Ultra capable, astonishingly well and competitively priced, it's the true connoisseur's choice.
Dear editor, this is the murderer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl on the 4th of July.
Next is a watch we've analysed and examined in a previous video, the vintage Zodiac Seawolf from the outstanding 2007 movie Zodiac. It's directed by the one and only David Fincher and tells the mostly true, unconcluded story of a manhunt for the Zodiac serial killer who terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area during the 1960s to early 1970s.
That's a nice watch.
Thank you.
May I see it?
One of the suspects depicted so memorably in a particular scene, wore the Seawolf diver, the branding of which was the same as the signature star sign used by the killer. While some of you may find this rather macabre connotation a bit strange, it undoubtedly, however, helped solidify this Swiss heritage brand, founded almost a century and a half ago, to truly become legendary in status. Talk about there's no such thing as bad publicity. The Seawolf was already highly acclaimed for being one of the earliest dive watches of all time, only missing being a world first by literally months to rivals Blancpain and Rolex. But today, the modernized automatic descendants typically cost over the $1,000 mark, but you can almost always find them heavily discounted for around $900, with many of them with the lively design traits left over in its now contemporary larger 40mm scale.
He knows your greatest fear.
Who are you?
Oh, I have so many names.
I'm here on the ground with my nose in it since the whole thing began. God likes to watch. He's an absentee landlord.
He's always been there. I know that now.
It's my time now.
Okay, now before we get into number 4, I would highly advise you check out this video to fully comprehend why Bulova are absolutely killing it in recent years, especially at the entry level, to fully comprehend and understand this choice a little bit better. I could have picked the 1957 inspired mill ships for its venerated military lineage, but it's not as iconic as Bulova's colloquially named Devil Diver, due to the obvious 666 depth rating printed on the dial. Its initial release was in 1968, and its popularity in the early 1970s coincided with the ritualistic nature of the killings committed by the Manson family in 1969. This set the stage for the rise of the satanic panic in pop culture, a phenomenon that never really went away until the 1980s. If you've ever seen the comical conclusion of surviving edged weapons, you will see exactly what I mean.
Rick, she's got a knife. Drop the knife!
That's a ceremonial dagger there.
Oh no, my God, shooter. Oh.
And that was when you thought this couldn't get any crazier.
Yeah.
You thought we had reached maximum crazy with the cocaine deal scene.
Yeah. No.
And then Satanism.
Fast forward like a DeLorean back to the future, and today the latest generation of modern 41mm reissues are some of the most faithful watches to a vintage original I've ever seen. They're almost indistinguishable. Chock-a-block full of quirky details, it's unlike any other dive watch out there. From the use of Doxa-esque neon orange, in my favourite version, to the applied cylindrical translucent markers over the killer luminescence, all cleverly designed to combat underwater distortions and boost visibility at all costs. The C-shaped style case makes it work on just about any scale of wrist, and nowadays it's almost always at a discounted super competitive price. The only negative is, while technically a proprietary automatic caliber, being in group and all, the 8000 series still lacks hacking, just like back in the day. But regardless, it remains a truly robust, professional level diver. With such a retrolicious, endearing personality, you soon forget any of its shortcomings.
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Now, before you roll your eyes at me, at number 3 it is Squale, but hear me out, hear me out. Typically, I'd put the 1521 at this position, but it is definitely a most iconic watch. Our good old friend inflation has kind of ruined it for us. But you know what? The 1521 was always underpriced and now finally it's just crept over the $1,000 mark. However, Squale have done something very clever indeed with their most affordable watch, the 1545. Anyone who really does know diving watch history can't deny just how important this small Swiss and Italian dive watch specialist turned independent watchmaker is to the evolution of the modern dive watch as we know it. But sadly, their most affordable entry-level watch, the 1545, has been largely dismissed as a Rolex Submariner homage, and justifiably so, as it's been precisely that for decades, despite first being created on the bequest of more prestigious brands like Blanc Pain in the 1970s. So if this was made for one of their most venerated clientele, is it really a homage? Or maybe it's the only legit homage? You can waste your own time arguing in the comments. Like Davide Cecchini says, if I'm going to waste time, I prefer watching cute kittens on Instagram. Maybe that's a euphemism for something. But anyway, I digress. But with the 1521 moving into a different price bracket, Squale updated this ETA-based automatic in a subtle but highly intelligent way, pulling from their own extensive archives of retro design and typical use of vivid colours for the dial, while still referencing the overall subby style shaped case, but then mixing it with the latest trends too, like the black base style oversized crown without crown guards and the coin edge bezel. By strengthening their entry level and making it essentially more Squale and less Rolex, they not only disarm the Vigliacchi watch snobs, but appease those on a tighter budget who desire to own a slice of this vastly crucial brand to diving watch history. The timing of this could not have been better, as they are celebrating a 65th anniversary and recently renewing contracts to officially supply not only the Marina Militare, yet again, with this recent limited release of only 500, but also the Dras Galeazzi Submariners, the Italian Polizia di Stato, and the elite Comsubin Polombari, if that wasn't enough. So just to put it in perspective, historically, the only brands to ever achieve even a fraction of this was Panerai and Rolex.
Because there's a conflict in every human heart between the rational and the irrational, between good and evil. The good does not always triumph. Sometimes the dark side overcomes what Lincoln called the better angels of our nature.
So at number 2, you guessed it, yeah. Seiko, Seiko, Seiko. The truth is, I could make a top 10 of just Seikos. You got the Munster, the Arnie, the Samurai, the Turtle. But I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and pick one I actually own, the Willard. I bought mine from Moya Fine Jewelers after I borrowed one to do a review. Fell in love with it, didn't want to send it back, pulled the trigger. I told them, you know what, let me just buy it. I bought it outright and I still own and love that watch. They are an AD for Seiko and I highly, highly recommend if you are going to buy a Seiko, get it from them. The original reference 6105 was produced from 1968 to 1977. Only 4 years after, Seiko entered the dive watch game with their rather conventional but renowned 62 Mass. Despite being late to the game, they soon came to dominate the genre by the 80s, especially in the post-quartz crisis era, with innovations like their saturation tuner-style cases, the world-changing Ani Digi Ani, and later one of the earliest diving computers. But before all that, the 6105 solidified their distinctive design language for their automatic divers and paved the way for all the daring designs that followed. They combined the offset 4 o'clock crown from their second generation of divers, the reference 6215, with their most curvaceous case yet. The result was a watch so comfortable, so much less prone to the lugs snagging on wetsuits, and with increased dependability in protecting the crown, while simultaneously also boosting bezel ergonomics. The real-life Captain Willards of the Vietnam War and their comrades in arms would often choose it over all the other brands available at the PX at the time. The movie's stardom was not product placement, but watch casting for the sake of verisimilitude, being set in the late 1960s, and thus coinciding with this massive turning point in Seiko watch design. But what cements it for me as the top pick when it comes to Seiko is the fact that I've always rather disregarded it. I saw the spec as 42mm and thought it was going to be too large, and on top of that, a bit of an overhyped movie prop at best. I only got to truly understand what the fuss was about after spending some serious time with one. Now, prices do vary, especially for my grey textured dial variant, from around $1,000 to the full retail asking price. But you can also find deals on the more faithful to original colorway, the SPB151J1, or the understated olive version. So, with a bit of due diligence, some patience, you'll soon be humming Ride of the Valkyries, and hopefully no smell of napalm in the morning, and you should be able to find a good deal on a Seiko Willard online.
Style hogs are bad, man. Listen.
At number 1, it's the AK-47 of Ocean Horology. When you absolutely positively got to kill every last Mother Hubbard in the room, except no substitute.
Nothing gets between me and my AK.
The name says it all, G-Shock Frogman. Today, the modern analog progeny of the Frogman literally has every complication you can think of, along with full ABC functionality, depth gauges, tough solar, multiband 6, and all that Bluetooth semi-smartwatch style connectivity stuff as well. But that really is all a bonus, as many forget just how important the old Froggy was to the history of this record-breaking horological powerhouse Japanese brand. Initially introduced in 1993, it was the first of the historic Master of G collection, so basically their first high-end G-Shock, if you will. It was completely unique, with its hyper-aggressive asymmetrical design, intended specifically for divers with that extra thick rubber shielding around the self-contained module, which was to facilitate hand movement when the watch was worn over a diving suit. Now, you have to remember this was before the infancy of wrist-top diving computers, during a time of Windows 3.1, brick phones, Johnny Castaway, and flying toasters.
Oh no, I absolutely swear by these things. Okay, you ask me anything. You ask me the time of day in Adelaide, anything. Tell you what, I'll tell you what I'm doing on 3rd of August, 1997. There, you see? Nothing.
A Scion PDA was about as portable as things got, and so the old Froggy DW6300 was the absolute dog's box for professional divers at the time. And yes, I know all G-Shocks have 200 meters water resistance, but these actually had real international diving certification, ISO 6425, and remained the only G-Shocks officially to have this certification. As with many of the watches featured in this list, extensive military use soon followed. Now, if the Frogman wasn't so ruddy big, I would own one. And sky's the limit. You can spend over $1,000 and get one with all the bells and whistles, or just an entry-level one for a few hundred. Amazing, amazing value for the money, I think. But anyway, that's about it. Do nominate yours. Let's make it a top 10. I'm sure there's going to be so many great nominations, and I'm going to be going, oh, why didn't I put that and make it a top 10? Anyway, share your nominations in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, especially if you want to see more free and independent content like this. I'll catch you from the war room in the next one. Onwards and upwards. Thank you for watching. Ciao. Despite starting only in the 1980s, quite recently, if we take and into a ton of movies and TV shows. It's the US Navy. Is it? No, it's not. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Great, that's fantastic. Okay, number 7 is an American / Swiss made. Nailed it. Do check it out because I go into. Sorry, it's the Monza Grand Prix outside. Now, before we get into my number 4, I would like to be able to speak properly. Dun, 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 dun. But I'm gonna put my money. What the hell was that? But I'm gonna put my. Okay, hi guys. Okay, hi guys. Hi guys. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to I sound like a game show host. I'm melting. There's gonna be so many bloopers in this. The fine irony. Making a video about dive watches and I can't go diving because of my lungs.